I can't tell you how excited I am that that video went correct this time.
Yes.
Yes, y'all. Welcome. This is Ask an Agent Anything, where we meet every Tuesday at 2 Mountain Central Time, so that we can talk about everything that's going on in our worlds as agents, as investors, as people who draw that rainbow bridge between the two worlds so that we can make more money and create more synergy in this world. My name is Corianne Wright. I am a wholesaler, an agent, and an artist, and I'm here with my all-time favorite, Renee. Hey, Renee Kishi, how's it going?
Hello, how are you from sunny Southern California? It is epic today. This is why I jokingly say I pay weather tax here. We pay high taxes in California. There's a reason. It's beautiful geography and beautiful eternal weather. Like, that's why they call it La La Land. Are we coming or are we going? We don't know. It's beautiful.
I am so happy for you. It is still winter here in Colorado and in the mountains, and it can't make up its mind. But at least today it's sunny, and I'm calling Florida. And Florida right now is like, it's cold. It's 65 degrees. So, I live in the in-between and everything.
I love it. I know, right? It's kind of, we don't have the humidity that Florida has, but we definitely have that sort of same weather pattern, right? Like if the sun's out every day, a Californian / Southern Californian. And I didn't grow up in California. I grew up on the East Coast. So I know what cold is, but I've been out here for almost 25 years. And I find myself saying that if it's less than 65 degrees, I say it's freezing. If anybody says they're freezing in Southern California, they've been here for at least 10 plus years.
That's amazing.
There you go.
Oh, it's actually 32 degrees here, and I will be out in sandals. So I am just a different breed, y'all.
Tough as nails.
A different breed.
Oh
yeah. Speaking of being tough as nails,
yes.
Now is the time for, honestly, it feels like everywhere in real estate, there is so much change, so much shift, so many things are happening. And I think one of the most obvious that I'm hearing chatter from everywhere about is that the NAR lawsuit is finally moving forward. They settled. And that means that there's going to be some big changes happening for us realtors. And I personally, this will be my first time going through it. I've only been in this business licensed since 2021, so just a few years, and as an investor since 2019. So this is a time for me to learn. Thank goodness I have Renee here.
Got to start somewhere. You got to get in the deep end. Just throw yourself in. I love that.
I'm personally excited about it because of that. Like everybody else has to change. I'm kind of new. Like this is an opportunity for me to be ahead of the game and to change with the tides.
And that's the only way. What are you going to do? I think that sometimes as human beings, we can be very reactionary. And in terms of real estate agents, this potentially, I think for a lot of people in their mindset, they think, wow, this is going to really affect my bottom line. And I respectfully say that is the wrong thinking. You might have that thought for a minute, but don't linger there, because my motto is don't get mad, get creative. So what are you going to do? You got to be better. I just say amen, hallelujah, because this is an opportunity to be better. And so anybody who is potentially maybe on the retirement plan, because, you can stay in real estate to the day you die, but at some point you probably want to say when and get out, so if you're just kind of kicking the can down the road, or maybe you're a part-timer, I'm not so sure there's going to be a lot of room for that anymore moving forward. So it will be some of that. We're going to definitely see people leaving. I just saw a statistic. I think it was like, we're down to 2008. The number of agents that are actually in the market right now are down to 2008. So again, these are my fellow agents, right? Corianne, I'm not here to make fun, or everybody's got, a different thing. Maybe they wanted a side hustle. That's not this business. You don't go to a brain surgeon who's doing this as a side hustle. You want to go to a professional. And that's what this kind of shifting market is going to do. The cream will rise, and the cream that is rising also must be better and do better. There's no time for slack. Yeah.
I spend all day, every day, reaching out to agents on the phone, texting them back and forth. And I was using a list from last year. I've been noting that about 40% are actually getting back to me. So it's not a text issue I have with my messaging. It's they're getting back to me saying, I'm sorry, I can't be helpful. I left my license. I'm not in the industry anymore. And I don't know where they fall. I'm not going to press in. Most of the time my text back is congrats on your new venture. I hope everything's going well. I assume the best for them and I give them that energy. But I also am noting that that's That's a major shift in the amount of people that are texting me that in comparison to 2 years ago when almost everybody was in the business and
Right.
actively after it. And so I'm interested to find out how this affects my investment business because I personally see it as the cream is rising to the top, if you will. And the
Mhm.
people who are going after sellers who are actually understand the process of getting a listing, they're the ones that are going to succeed and keep their license. And those are the people I want to work with. Kind of works in my favor.
I mean, newsflash, it's always been that. You know, what happens when it's an up market, essentially, I'm speaking generally, I'm not an economist, but basically in the last 12 years, you know, we've been in an up market. And in an up market as a real estate agent, let's just be blunt, you don't have to actually have a lot of skill. You can pretty much just put a sign in the yard, open the door, accept an offer, and you're going to get a paycheck. It's the shifting markets that really, really are a skills market. And we should have been in that skills market all along so that you
Mm,
are prepared and prepped, not only as a professional for anybody during an up market, but during these shifts. And
yeah.
so I heed that call out there, you know, for any agent that's listening, that's being reactionary. I was talking to a younger gentleman, younger by age and also younger and newer into the business of wholesaling, which is a lot of what you and I also do. And he just kept pressing into some of the comments that the agent was making. And he allowed me to contribute to him. And I respectfully said, the amount of time, the 5 minutes that you've argued for your limitations as to why the agent had their point, you could have actually either moved on from that agent. Maybe you were not a right fit, or you could have been practicing your skills or scripts. So
Mm,
I'm being blunt in this call because I haven't been here before because I've never been at this time and place, but I did thrive and survive through the last down market, which was known as the Great Recession. It wasn't even a down market. If you didn't have your act together, you were out of the business. And I saw some of the biggest and best in Los Angeles County actually step out and then step back in, but they stepped back out quietly. You know, they didn't want to
yeah.
let people know that they stepped out. So this is a skills-based market, as every day should be skills-based. This is a skills-based market. So what is that for you as like a new agent? What does that mean when I say that to you? So maybe we can give the audience a little broader idea of what I'm saying. What does that mean to you as a seasoned agent that I say that to you?
It's value add opportunity to me. It means that even like, let's just look at my traditional side of the business, remove the wholesaler investor side. I look at as many people think as a realtor, my job is unlock doors, look pretty, point towards kitchen. And many buyers, now that this shift is going to happen and they have to be responsible for the amount of representation they're taking on, it means that they're going to have to start, they're either going to understand the value add opportunities that we bring, or I think this is likely, they're going to say, oh, I don't need that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to do it on my own. And they're going to call people on Zillow and listing agents, and they're going to try to hustle for that until they hit that contract. And that's the moment where I feel like I'm going to get more calls of, hey, I'm looking at this contract. I've been talking to this listing agent this whole time. I recognize they represent the seller. I'm a little nervous. I'm about to fall off a cliff.
Right.
Thank you. This is my opportunity to let you know that this is actually where I add value, is to keep you protected throughout a transaction so that on the other side, you are excited to receive those keys and unlock your door and don't feel like you got drugged through the mud by a truck, because sometimes it can feel that way. And it's my job as an agent to protect you. So opportunity is what I see to better communicate how we add value to this ecosystem and then demand that value be returned to us. I can think of so many times I've checked the seller will pay, buyer not obligated to pay commission box, and
Mm-hmm.
that's on the Colorado contract.
Mm,
Well,
okay.
no more. Like that's the first thing that goes for me, is that it's going to be seller may pay, buyers obligated to pay.
You know, this is a long time coming, frankly. I think people hear it as, oh, the seller won because of the obvious, right? The seller is now getting kind of their rebate back. But what I think the seller forgot is they're going to have to pay it on the other end. So this all remains to be seen as a social experiment and how that's going to play out. But the train has left the
Mhm.
station, the genie's out of the bottle, and we got to be better, do better. And so,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be really interesting because um, as a buyer's agent, at least I've been a buyer's agent, right? And throughout my career, I wouldn't consider myself just a listing agent, but I primarily did listings. But when I
Mhm.
represented buyers, you know, one of the things that always served me and them well was to future pace the conversation. Because if you can get in front of something and let that person know expectations and what to assume might be coming down the road, that always led to a really smooth transaction. So it's these little nuances where you mentioned, open the door, look pretty, but really what is that experience? What is that going to be like? And that's going to, I believe, force us in a powerfully way. So maybe not forceful, right? But it will kind of like, you got to do it, or you're just nobody's going to hire you to just look pretty and open a door. It's not a passive income really at this juncture, right? Because we were always offered the percentage. So I like to go into what does that really mean? I think it's a transformation all the way around. And I love that word transformation. So the question being, who are you going to be while this is presenting itself? And it's the transformation of not only an industry and an opportunity for it to transform maybe your career and who you're being in it, but at its crux, the only reason why anybody repeatedly does business with anybody is because they know, like, and trust them. And I'm of the opinion that you got to know, like, and trust yourself. And we're always a work in progress. Oh my God. I've been to a couple of bottoms in my life. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. Life circumstances have happened for me, to me, et cetera. And it's like, I cried and screamed and crawled over broken glass while I was in it. And then I had an aha moment, and I've taken all of those things with me. And that sometimes is just time and space on this planet. It's wisdom. And what are you going to do with it? So that's the question I ask. What are you going to do with this? So Corianne, what are you, as sort of a newerish agent, newerish wholesaler, what are you going to do in this transformation? And how are you going to be for the clients moving forward?
Well, especially on the traditional side, one of the big aspects that I definitely touch is buyers that are moving up to the mountains and they're looking for a homestead. So the amount of times that I've been like, yeah, absolutely, let me run out to that property and I'm going to show you a video of it. Or yeah, absolutely, whenever you're in town, let's have our chat. I'm going to become much, much more proactive in that side of my business. If somebody reaches out to me and they want to see a property, they're going to go through the buy-in consultation first before I even take that time as to whether I'm the right fit and whether they understand that I'm a paid service. And if they don't and they prefer to just go and reach out to a listing agent directly, absolutely, all the better to them. At least I communicated that. And then I think the next step for me is I have to become a heavier leaning possible listing agent out there in my community. And I think that comes down to market share is shifting. Many agents not only are aging out of the industry, but also this shift is making many people run. And so they need to know that there is somebody in their market that is the go-to. So I'm going to start talking more about who I am and what I do and how I help, even to the people in the coffee shop near me. And I think to a lot of traditional agents, they'd be like, wait, you weren't doing that before? And no, I wasn't. I didn't need to because I was definitely on the investment side of the business. But if other agents are not doing that on my behalf, directing sellers to what a cash offer can mean for them, then I'm going to go out there and do it. And I'm going to become more direct to seller based, using my license to give opportunities and options so that I'm the one that holds that listing. And if a buyer doesn't want to work with a buyer's agent, they're contacting me.
And exactly. And that's, by the way, what it's always been. The name of the game, I'll call it retail versus investment, just for the sake of distinction, that retail has always been, the name of the game has always been listings. And you really did need to have a skill set to be listings. And listen, I'm not, poo-pooing buyer's agents by any means. There's quality buyer's agents out there. There are people that just resonate with being a buyer's agent, and we need more of you, especially right now. But to the agents that might just be doing everything to everybody, you're a little bit of something to a lot of things. And that doesn't always make for, a niche or direction in what it is that you're doing with your career. I am also of the opinion right now that this is just a money grab. I mean, if the figurative you, right? In this case, you're homesteading, you're in the right and perfect place to do it. It's a very specific, person, place, and thing that you're going to sell is that get loud and be specific in that, so that even though I don't know, right, how many homes are around, but maybe you want to expand, your area because you live on so much acreage and there aren't as many homes close together and so forth. But maybe you're the go-to girl in whatever, like the entire Denver area region or the area that you live, and make sure that you're talking to those agents who are in the bigger cities for the people that do want to move out or have a secondary home, so that you're not just the chick in the, with somebody who's looking for 80 acres. Like you're there, you're like, hey, I'm here, right? Anybody who wants to homestead, that's what I'm up to. Or have a small farm or have 2 acres. I mean, 2-3 acres is kind of a lot when you're coming from a city, that somebody just wants a secondary. And that's what I see for you. So be loud, get loud, be the freaking Colorado chick. I mean, there's not that many big cities in the entire state of Colorado. So, start doubling down on those agents. Anyway, that's what I'm saying to the audience is whatever niche you decide. Somebody said to me, oh, I want to go into probate. And I was at one point in my career, a probate specialist. I still am, but I don't focus on it as much. I just really understand the process. But pick something and go deep. Don't stay wide. Go deep, and then go deep and get loud, because the people that need you, and then you'll become a specialist. And it will take some time. So don't get fear of missing out, FOMO, shiny object syndrome. The thing about real estate is you got to stay the course. And I'm a Gen Xer, and I noticed that some folks that are younger than me, it's like, there's just so much distraction. Well, what if I do this, or what if I do that? And real estate is still one of those businesses that you will win. Slow and steady wins the race. You just got to have the patience to do so, and then build upon it. You can do all those things, but get good at a thing and then build upon it, or, bring on a member to your team or what have you to mind that. But again, don't try to be all things to all people, because I think people are really looking for specialists as well moving forward, a buyer specialist, a listing specialist. Again, it's always been that, but this is now a legendary or thing that has happened that is going to cause somebody to be like, I am a buyer's agent. I'm here to help you on the buy side.
Yeah. And here's the value I add. Here's everything that you will take away from the experience of working with me. Like, people are going to have to get so on point with where they add value so that they can preach it, so they can draw those people to them. And I think for myself, it's always going to be investment specialized. Like, part of that is where I live up in rural Colorado. Another aspect of that is that's where I have fun. Like, I like the numbers. I like the people that I get to play with in that particular game. So kind of shifting the lens over for those people and how that shift is going to change for investors that work with agents, it means you need to do more follow-up. Like, it is time to check your database. It's time to check in with your agents and find out how are they responding to this news. Because some people are going to be like, oh, I'm a listing agent, I'm not worried about it, we'll see how things change, I'm totally fine with that. Some of them are going to be like, I'm only a buyer's agent, I don't know how to fix this. Like, I'm not quite sure how can I work with you as an investor? Because now I don't know how to value proposition the fact that you need to pay me for things that honestly buyers have never had to, or they've gotten used to not having to think about that in their buy price. So yeah, I am going to be following up heavy with this agents that I have in my database, because in general, I want to know when they leave the industry, or when they're thinking about leaving the industry, or whether they're doubling down. If they're doubling down on the amount of sellers they're reaching out to, we can partner up, because the more sellers you reach out to, the more ugly properties you're going to run across, because it's just a game of numbers when you're out there doing it. And I am a good buyer when it comes to ugly, stinky properties, especially in Colorado and Florida. So if you run across those, let me help you get more transactions under your belt as you make that faster, bigger push.
Oh, that's so good. And I'll tell you, just this week, well, what's today? Tuesday, right? So just as of last week, I had 2 agents who I cold called in my prospecting, and both of them, let me back up. I was cold calling them because it was part of my follow-up sequence. So they had already heard from me. It was not a first time cold call, but it was a first time that they would have been hearing my voice, if that makes sense, in the sequence. It was like text, call, right? And actually, they had a conversation with me because they had an inkling of what I was doing, because the agent mentality is like, well, wait a minute, you're saying you're an agent, you're putting your Department of Real Estate, the DRE number, in the text message, because I do that purposefully to distinguish myself so that I'm not just an agent, I'm an agent investor, which is already a little confusing, because they're like, are you an agent or are you an investor, right? But now I piqued their interest. And so they actually had this conversation with me like, this is what I think you're doing. Are you an agent, but then you also buy yourself, but then you work with investors? And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I filled in the blanks for them. And at the end of this conversation, the gist of what they were getting at is, Renee, what are you doing? Because it sounds to me like you're bringing in more monies in another capacity in a very proactive way. What are you doing? Like they literally were just getting curious. And I said, great. You want to lock arms with me? I'm your girl. Here's what you can do. Start calling the sellers, right? Start door knocking, some of the old school stuff that needs to happen. If you have the budget, mail and market, but that can get pricey quick, especially in a big city like LA. Most people don't have the budget for it. So you got to go back to old school. And I said, listen, bring me an opportunity. I will take it across the line. I will get you paid, rinse and repeat. And along the way, I'll share with you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm showing, not telling. Right. And that gal, both of them, they happen to be women, doesn't matter, but both of them were just like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? Yes. And so this, I think, Corey, and we're going to hear a little bit more about this. And you and I made the decision to not only incorporate investing and investors. We are not just wholesalers. We are agents who happen to wholesale. Or for myself specifically, I also work with small lot developers. I also work with people who are looking for buy and hold opportunity or value add, like putting an auxiliary dwelling unit on a premises and then, keeping it. And there's rules and regulations within the County of Los Angeles that you can do that. It's like urban infill. So it's just knowing what's going on out there and then presenting it and really being that one-stop shop as an agent. That's my value proposition and who I really am as a part-time psychologist, but I'm a matchmaker. I'm really good at listening for what is person A want and what is person B want, and where to put them together. And I'm recruiting other agents to be on my team, my unofficial team, to be able to do that. And this is the kind of creativity. I mean, I didn't make this up, but this is the kind of creative thinking that you have to have versus opening door and looking pretty. And, this is what it's going to take. So that's what I mean about just like a money grab in this type of shifting market, is give yourself a 5-minute pity party and then be better, do better, and don't get mad, get creative. What are you going to do? So that was really great. You said you were up to. You're going to be the homestead gal.
Well, I do see, like, for the people who see themselves as a buyer's agent, to me, that's personal shopper. In a lot of ways, you've got somebody, they know what they need, they know what their budget is, and it's your job to find that. And then we can talk about all the emotional connections and all the other things and psychology that you got to bring into it to bring those two things together. But if we're looking at it from a where are things trading in any given market, the investor side is always going to be heavy. Like there's always a need for rejuvenation of given areas, and those things change every now and then, right? Like you just have to stay on to it. And for example, one of the big things that I learned about my Colorado market recently is right now it is very hard to sell duplexes and rentals. It's very hard to get the seller to a place where they want to get rid of their rental at the right number where it actually makes it profitable given the interest rates for any given buyer. So when I go out and I personal shop, knowing that information, when I'm talking to an agent about the fact that they really need to sell this duplex, I'm able to actually give them the knowledge of what is happening and why they're coming up against that difficulty. So I think for the buyer's agent, kind of shifting from that I only personal shop to I solve problems, you're going to find more and more people that you can solve problems for that isn't just your traditional buyer. And then you're going to start to see the circle of more contracts, more deals getting closed monthly for you. I see it as just a small important shift, not a personal shopper, more of a creative mind that is necessary for any given buyer, no matter where they are in the industry.
And, I would leave this with the audience as well is, we've been talking a little esoteric. So here's a little bit of a homework assignment is also whatever your local, I'll call it, say, building and safety. You can start there. You can literally Google building and safety. I think most counties, that's what it's called, or you can at least start there. And then start to go on those type of websites, and it'll start to lead you down all kinds of rabbit holes. So do it on a Saturday, do it while a Netflix special is running in the background, and really get in there and start to read. And also for the general public, you don't have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors or whatever state you're in. So it's NAR, National Association of Realtors. I'm in the state of California. It's CAR, California Association of Realtors. So whatever state you're living in, you can go on both of those websites and you can just educate yourself. That's where to start. If your head is spinning and you're in a reactive space because of Friday, go there. There's a couple of influential people. I'll shout out a name. I think Ricky Carruth is another agent to follow. He's very much branded his name, and I want to shift into branding and reputation, but he's very much branded his name as a go-to agent and, stuff like that. So just know your sources, go to the sources, start to read, start to educate. And actually, this is a door to open maybe for another brokerage that you like or other top agents in your area that you don't have a relationship with. And what is everybody's favorite subject? Themselves. So it's an opportunity to pick up the phone and say, hey, top end agent, I've always wanted to get to know you. What is your opinion on NAR? And like, you'll say it in your own words, but essentially that's what you're doing. And that's another entree into having conversations with mortgage brokers, with property managers. This is a hot topic, guys. I mean, go for it, go for it. If there's ever been a time that you were reluctant to quote unquote cold call somebody and not assume they're going to go out to coffee with you because these are busy people and they have no clue who you are, have them talk about themselves, about one of the hottest topics that's running around the internet right now. That's your homework assignment.
I love that assignment. And Ricky Carruth is one of the people I like to follow. And one of the things that he's really focused on is that the next 12 months is the time to make these adjustments to your business and really put yourself out and in front of people. And so as a newer agent, for me, that's exciting. It's a refresh. A lot of people are put back on the same level that I am to have to understand and navigate this kind of change. I think one of the top questions I would ask if I were to go and reach out to some of these top listing agents, I feel like the question I'd want to ask is, are you going to change anything right now about the way that you create listing agreements? Because for many people, my understanding is that they might take that down to 2 to 3% that they are going to make, and then there's not going to be any kind of commission statement for the buy side. What they might be able to say is the seller is going to give concessions. Like the seller will give concessions that then pay for that buy side, but the word buyer commissions is not happening anymore. So I'm very curious what some of those upper listing agents are going to be doing in their listing presentations and their listing agreements starting now.
Yeah, the summer, really. I mean, once it's effective.
Right.
Is interesting. My 2 cents on that will also be, it's kind of like standby, right? So in this instance, again, CAR, California Association of Realtors, you interject whatever state you live in. There will be counsel with those lawyers. And my guess and my assumption is that they will redraft a listing agreement, because in the California Association of Realtors, it's like commission, or I think it says to the MLS, which is basically commission. So it's not going to be on the MLS anymore. It'll just be nothing, I guess, because it never shows what the listing agent makes, right? It's just like, oh, here's what we're offering to the buy side in the MLS. So, the MLSs will be affected with coding. The listing agreement will have to be shifted, and it'll be interesting, right? So maybe it'll just have a blank, and then you don't have to fill in the blanks at all. You're not offering anybody anything. So stay tuned, because we haven't seen a shift in the listing agreement. Man, have we seen shifts in the buyer's agreement? Holy cow. Or the purchase agreement, I should call it. But we've seen that in my career. I've probably seen like 4 incarnations. That's a lot in 18 years. 3, 4, 5 years, they're doing some overhaul on it. But we live in a very litigious state. California is very litigious. We are in an escrow state. So real estate agents, in my opinion, are almost like lawyers. There is no lawyer that comes to the closing table. We are really responsible. Escrow is a person, place, process, and they are like Switzerland. They don't have an opinion on anything. They're just the neutral third party. So we're really the ones that are coming up with the languaging. So it'll be interesting to see that.
It works the same here in Colorado. And I'm interested, watching. And of course, for our whole audience, we're going to continue to have this conversation as things change. And we want to know what questions you have. If you have any concerns or things as you're reading, please bring them to the table, because we will continue the conversation for sure. But one thing that we can do in this shift, we don't need to know exactly what's going to be happening. We do need to know that change means opportunity. And I think one of those big opportunities is to start to brand yourself and
Yes.
truly share where your value is. So what thoughts do you have for us, Renee, on how we should be doing that right now?
What comes to mind is what I just said before, is to pick a lane, pick a niche, a niche, however you just say that word. Pick what is going to have your heart sing and you're going to resonate with. And I would encourage you, not to look to maybe he was the most successful doing the most niched thing and then just do that. Unless, of course, that's what makes your heart sing. Because you really, at the end of the day, have got to get out of bed and do what's going to be fun for you. So the hot topic these days is dirty fixers and all the flip and flop shows, and all that's just become so popular because I think people see a dollar sign attached to it. And for
Mhm.
me, I love that avatar of client. I love the investor client. I speak investor. I understand their mentality, their bottom line, their matter of factness. If the audience doesn't already get it, I have a lot of that in me. I'm a very
Mm,
fair person, but I'm also very bottom lined. I don't have a lot of patience when it comes to holding somebody's hands for 6 months. I'm not the best option. And I would actually
mm,
give that person, that potential client, maybe to another agent or somebody on my team who they love that. It's almost like your
mm,
style, right? Do you like a style of music? Do you like a style of food? Well, I'm not going to force myself to work with a style of client that I don't want to work with just because I see a paycheck at the end of the rainbow. So
mhm,
pick your niche, pick your lane. And then, as I mentioned before, go deep on that. What does that mean? Go back to what I said about the homework assignment. Get educated, get smart. What is going on with the investor community? So here in Los Angeles County, there's SB 8, SB 9 that just got passed last year. In a nutshell, for the audience, that's a lot of urban infill. That's the short version of it. Okay, that's a lot
mhm,
of urban infill, and they're always moving. There's always crazy targets in LA. But stay on these sites, have conversations, and don't be assumptive that your client knows everything. You get ahead of
mhm,
something. And then from
mhm,
there, brand yourself. And social media is darn near pennies on the dollar. It's free, basically. So you do need to do what Corianne and I are doing, and have a time and place and have a bit of a plan in place and execute on it. But if you're shy and you don't want to be on camera, then write. If
mhm,
you want to do audio, do audio. There's Spotify. You can have it on Spotify. You can do, an audio podcast, right? If you don't want to be on camera. But I would encourage people to let people see your face. Again, back to people do business with who they know, like, and trust. So if they can see you, you can vibe people, and people are like, oh, is this person for me? I think I want to do business with them. So it's like your reputation. It's a bespoke situation. Your reputation is going to speak for you. And I love then what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about. He wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. Really what that's saying is give, 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 ask. And so then when you start to, give value, whether you're giving of yourself, you're giving your opinion. And then all of a sudden you can ask your audience for things like, hi, would you like to do business with me? In no uncertain
mm,
terms, you're asking that. Or you've already bespoke enough of yourself that people will call. It's more like an inbound call. So that
mm.
becomes your reputation. And that's essentially all we have in this business. It's a relationship-based business, real estate. And how are you going to let people know that you exist, and what value are
Mhm.
you going to bring? So hopefully, did that make sense? I mean, it's a place to
Yes.
start. It's a place to start. Yeah.
I think it's perfect for our audience, but like what I've always told everyone is I'm really bringing myself and my business as open as possible to what I'm experiencing, and I just kind of want to process and dump your direction. You can tell me what you think, but in a lot of ways, I'm like I need to take that advice myself and hone in on really that I'm just extremely good at the investment data play. I'm great at comps. I know you have to repair values, and I can help agents get there, and sometimes I do the buy retail side. And so for me, that's kind of two different things. And I
Mhm.
guess one of the questions I have, because I'm sure the audience out there has that too, is now the time to lob one of those off, or do we just really truly start to grow what we've already started, but add a larger push to the value that we bring and why we bring that value?
Well, if I was still really, really retail heavy, so I'll speak to that audience listener, And I was
Mhm.
listening to us, and they're going like, yeah, okay, I like this. I can fold this in, but I don't know how. I would
Mhm.
present it to my traditional retail buyers. So I mean, just people that you're selling pretty homes to who want to make memories. There's
Mhm.
nothing to kind of fix, let's say, other than if they want to upgrade. It's not a fixer home in the way that Corianne
Mhm.
and I are describing. It's not a hoarder house, if you will. So if I was just that type of agent, I would be reaching out to my database, just of say past clients, if you will, and maybe even homeowners, to say, here's my value proposition. And my value proposition is everybody wants to make more money, and most people want to make it in a passive capacity. So
Mhm.
one of the ways to do that is to own real estate. And so you could be that go-to person, either getting educated on your own and going to find those fixers, or locking arms with someone like myself and Corianne to say, behind the scenes, hey, bring me some of the fixers, but you're in front of the house saying, hey, I'm here to grow your wealth. I'm here to bring you options and opportunities for that second buy that doesn't need to be a vacation home. But how about if it brings you the passive income? Because of
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z, simply because you want to make more money, or you have kids, or whatever the why is, and that's where you get that skills going. Because remember what I said earlier, people's favorite topic is themselves. So if you start asking people what it is that they want, then you'll get out of your head. So to respect of what your question is, Corianne, and maybe some people who are like kind of on their toes about, well, it sounds like a good idea, but I don't want to do it. The way that I always pivot is I start asking more questions. And people will
Mhm.
reveal themselves to you. People will reveal what is important to them. And then it's our job to basically just keep asking open-ended questions. I mean, that's basically what a psychologist does. And so
Yeah.
once you do that, then you've got to be an active listener and be listening to what they're actually saying and listen
Mhm.
behind the scenes. And if you feel like you're
Mhm.
not a great listener, then I would encourage you to learn. It's a skill. It's a skill to learn how to actively listen. And once you do that, and once you can show up and repeat or summarize, I should say, you don't want to parrot somebody necessarily, but summarize what somebody is saying, they will feel so heard and validated that that is what is going to have them want to most likely do business with you or lean in. And
Yeah.
overarchingly, that's emotional intelligence. So again, back to homework assignments, if you want to learn more and be better, you will start to learn more about emotional intelligence. I actually coach directly with Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and I still practice. So he's kind of like the coach on the screen. And then I practice with other agents behind the scenes on how to deliver some of his tactics. Literally,
Mhm.
still, I do this. And so, I may sound learned, I might know how to deliver something, but it's my 10,000 hours. Frankly, this isn't like I just woke up and I know what the hell I'm doing. I mean, this is practice, guys. So this is what I mean about the craft. Don't be part-time about your craft. And I think this is what's going on with these type of shifts in the market is you just can't be part-time with the craft anymore, I don't think.
You're such a problem solver. In case anybody just missed what happened, I was like, "Should I go this route or should I go this route?" And you were like, "Here's the beautiful rainbow that ties them both together." And that's true. I mean, in a lot of ways, like that is kind of a perfect play for me is to help buyers that maybe don't even realize that now's the time to push into investments, find the right kind of investment. And that's sort of the perfect tie between those two things for myself. But that's
Mhm.
the internal questioning that we are all having to ask as this shift happens because you want to be ready to rock and roll and go as that change is put into effect over the summer. So asking yourself and taking that time, and really it is about the questions we ask, not the answers we come to. That is, where do I find the most happiness in this real estate industry, and where do I feel like I can really truly bring my own glow, and then start preaching that and getting loud. And like you said, social media is the best place to do that, and anybody who wants to follow along can follow me at Corianne Wright. You can, I don't even know how to point to it. There it is, at Corianne Wright on IG, where you can live see me struggle with this. I mean, honestly, I'll be on there, I'll be consistent for a little while, and then I'll go, who am I? What am I? What value do I bring? And then all of a sudden I'm struggling with that again. And I think this has been a huge thing for me is to always know at Tuesdays at 2, I show up, I show the things that I'm thinking about and the changes I'm making in my business. But another big change of that is really starting to get loud on Instagram and get loud in places like YouTube. And so Yeah, follow along because I feel like I'm in the live version of figuring that out, struggling with it, but also I believe in its power and I'm willing to take those L's of, ooh, that was a bad video, just so that I can get to the place where I find my people. Because someone out there needs the information that it took me 5 years falling on my face to get. And that's the case for every realtor out there who's like, "Oh, what do I bring?" You studied this stuff. You learned it. If you've slept by your contract, you're officially there in my mind. And I slept by my contracts many a night, so that we can really bring. I run across agent or buyers and sellers all the time where they see that contract for the first time and it's almost like glaze over, shut down. And we can be the people who are like, no, this is a moment to see all of this and let's open up to the opportunities to make you money. Um, so
Mm.
I that's my nerdy soapbox, but I'm excited for honestly becoming a standout in this industry as it changes, as it shifts, and people fall away and can't handle it. More opportunity for me to bring value.
I love that. You're so good. And one of the niches that I've done is kind of a niche within a niche is um, besides me being in LA County, and I do business throughout Southern California, just for the audience as well. But I'd say because I live in LA and I've done the bulk of my business in LA, and LA, aside from probably San Diego's, like the biggest, county in all of Southern California, that I've continued to and have been making a name for myself, primarily because I'm the only person in the world with my name. So it's like, if you see it, it's me. I don't have Jane Doe as my name. Like if it's Renee Kishy, it's me. So if you remember meeting me or I did a deal with you and you had a good time, great. I don't have to sell myself again. But
Mm,
LA has its own cliches, right? And all that, LA has a lot of different neighborhoods, but what it's most known for and notorious for is its wealth. And so I've also gone to a lot of agents who are what I would consider like a luxury agent or high-end agent. And secretly, a lot of them, their bread and butter are some of these dirty fixers, although they'll never say that on TV, they'll never market it. And then many of them, respectfully, because they all have their crazy personalities, but they don't want to have anything to do with it. It's like a piece of gum on the bottom of their shoe. Somebody's best friend's mother's grandma came along and said, so and so's house in this neighborhood needs to be sold, and I know, like, and trust you. Can you help us? And they
mm,
just assume not even go to that side of town. They don't want to know about it. They don't want to deal with it. And so I'm like, waiting in the wings for all the dirty fixers. So my personal kind of niche has been, I live here in LA. I've been in $40 million homes. I don't even live too darn far away from some of them, although I'm not in a super fancy neighborhood. But you know what? I'm the one that's like, hey guys, I'm over here. Let me be your dirty secret. I'll sell that dirty fixer at the far end of the county that you don't want to go to, and I'll still get you paid. And so I'm just
mhm,
going to clean up that way. I don't need to be fancy. I don't necessarily need to be on any of these TV shows, but let me make my money. Let me be of service. And on both sides of the equation, I want my fellow agent to sing. That's the difference that you and I have, and anybody who's an agent or a seasoned agent in this audience, is that agents sometimes are really a little reluctant to work with investors. They feel like they don't care. They feel like they're going to throw them under the bus. They feel like they're going to cancel contracts. And I speak agent like you do, Corianne. And so I assure them, and I mean this from my heart, that I actually care. Not every agent's going to say this. I actually care about the relationship and reputation that they have with their seller, because that's all they have. And we're in this and it's
mhm,
a team effort. And I'm in a transaction right now, actually, with somebody like that. They're a high end, we call it the West Side, that's like Santa Monica, Beverly Hills agent who happened to get
mm,
a fixer. Okay. And it went south, it fell out of escrow, and I came along, and I wouldn't say secretly, that's not the right word, but in confidence, he sent me a text message that was this like story and litany of what happened. And he basically was like, I can't even sleep until this transaction is going to close, because if this falls apart, I will lose this transaction with this buyer. And we've already done 15 transactions with them between the husband and wife over the last 10 years. That's how precarious this is. And I take
mm.
that seriously. Now, we're not going to cancel, knock on wood, but this is what goes on behind the scenes. So back to reputation and brand, not only in front of the camera, but also behind the camera. If you're going to start to do, working with investors, or if you're going to partner with somebody like Corianne and myself, that, you need to know who you're getting in bed with, and make sure that, that person's going to be there and have your back and have your reputation too. So
Mhm.
it's important. It really is very cyclical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I Reputation behind the screen. I'm so glad you brought this up, and I think it's more important. And some of the reasons why sometimes it's hard to be out there on Instagram or YouTube or etc. is because the work is so needed behind the scenes in regards to keeping my character. Like for my sellers, for my agents, it's important to me that I know exactly where my values are, that I'm communicating that, and I'm showing up that way. Let me tell you, I got my least favorite text this week,
Mm.
and it hit a block in my body. I could feel it and in my brain, and I had to sit down and go ask myself some questions like, "Why did you feel that way? And what brought us to this?" And I'll tell you, it was direct an agent hitting me up and saying, "You're a liar."
Ooh,
And
wow.
it was a text that just said, "You're a liar." And the first thing I did was pick up the phone to actually have the conversation and go, "At what point do you believe I lied? What aspects are you seeing that make you feel lied to? Because I certainly never meant to do that." And their whole concern was I was assigning it, and they did not realize that I was assigning it, even though it specifically stated in the contract that I could and would potentially assign it, that to
Mhm.
them, they were like, "Well, I thought you were gonna flip this one on your own." And I do flip ones on my own, and that was the conversation I had. But most important in every contract I go into and under is that we are going to actually close on the closing date that we said we would. And so if for any reason I recognize that those numbers are off, and that's exactly what happened here, it ended up being a little bit smaller than I originally had square footage for. I'm going to send all of my clients and my contacts in the door to see if we can make sure and hit that closing date. And having that conversation, being willing to get probably like my least favorite like admonishment at my character, and then getting on the phone immediately to actually have that conversation and to remove myself from that icky feeling of what the heck do you think oh, was my initial response. It
Mhm.
ended up being a great conversation, and I hope to do many more deals with this person within our company. But it was scary, difficult, and what's most important is that my character and my reputation and my name was going to stay as somebody that's true, not a liar. Um, and so anyway, there's just kind of a personal antidote to what that feels like on the back end. But I know for a fact that being honest in my conversations and in my business is important to me. And so I felt that when it hit up against it.
There's a lot to unpack there. And, good for you that that's where we grow. You said just a moment ago, you said take some L's. I never think there's a loss. I think there's a learn. That's to me what
Mhm.
that L is. So under that guise, what I'm hearing you say is that you obviously wanted to defend yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's defending of a character. It's how you're doing it, or how it's said, or the delivery and the cadence and the tonality, and all of those things are so important. And these are learned skills, right? Because we could get triggered, right? That little girl, that little 8-year-old could have been like, "Whoa, my dukes are up," or you could have showed up in a state of curiosity, which it sounded like you did. And I'm sure maybe if we were to have recorded the call, maybe it started a little bit heightened, right? And then it sort of kind of petered down from there. And then you said ultimately you had a great conversation. And I will
Mhm.
tell the audience this, that this isn't my opinion. Go on the National Association of Realtors website. I think it's something like the national age, or the nationally, right? The average age of an agent is something like in their 50s, 55. So remember, for those of you who are at least of that age bracket, and especially people that are significantly younger, who is your audience and how do they want to be communicated with? And one of my personal values is clear, concise communication. And you must have clear, concise communication in your life, because so goes one area, so goes all areas, right? So it's like, let me be blunt. If your marriage is falling apart, I don't know that you're succeeding in business, or something is happening, right? So it's kind of like
Mhm.
really looking under the hood of who you're being in life, which is back to what we started at in the beginning of this conversation. And so I hear you, and I also know you, but I hear you as somebody of character. You wanted to make it right. You picked up the phone. You didn't just text message someone back. Texting is really a convenience. To me, texting should be just something that you already start once you've already had a conversation with somebody, but that's not really the direction text messaging has gone into. It's like a convenience. So in an instance like this, I think it deems somebody picking up the phone, having that conversation, letting that, tonality land on somebody in that form of communication, because you couldn't be belly to belly with them. And then just talking it out like adults. There's no need for our inner children to be smacking each other on their heads. And we just talk it out, we get to a resolution, and we move forward. And that's exactly what you did. So it's just a gentle reminder to the audience that we don't have to make things such a big deal. And Lord only knows, in text messaging, there's a lot of loss in translation. There could be loss in translation. And you want to get curious and you want to find out, where is that other person coming from? So good on you for making sure that you did right by it. And listen, worst case scenario, that person still considered you a liar. And after you expressed yourself, then maybe you weren't there to do business with them. And you can't win them all, right? But at least you were heard. You didn't just slink away.
It's a learn, not a loss. That I
Yeah.
know for sure. Even in the way, like, I went back and I looked at how I had communicated, in coming to this particular contract. And of course, every single time something like that happens, I'm going to be adjusting to make sure that I am living within what I have said that my values and my character needs to look like. So, yeah, I want to also say that even in that scenario, I did not said receive text, immediately call. I
Mm.
received text and huffed and puffed for a minute and was like, that, I don't believe that at all. And then the next thing I did was I actually role played with my business partner before I picked up the phone. And we just had a moment where I first was like, I got through everything I needed to in terms of steam out the ears. And then, we actually addressed, well, did he have any reason to feel this way? Let's look at our conversation, and here's how you should approach. So it's always good to have community, to have people you rely on, whether that be your broker or your mentor, whatever that looks like, to have kind of that buffer. Because if I hadn't been aware enough to recognize, ooh, that hit something where I could blow, I could be defensive. And some of that is my own personal internal work to not let that immediately come out, but to just hit a filter of, ooh, do I want to portray it this way? And
Mm.
I'm grateful to all of that internal work that I'm constantly after, because it allowed me to catch this moment before I made a drastic decision, make a better decision with a partner who was aligned with me and could help me see the things that I couldn't, and then have a conversation that allowed this to hopefully stay a really healthy, great relationship between me and this agent. So, yeah, there's
That's
a lot of
amazing. That makes a world go round. Yeah. No,
right.
really, I'm of the belief that there's never enough personal development. I don't think you need to go down a rabbit hole or spiritually bypass things or all of those little cliches that can happen. But to really, there's no top to the mountain. Like, how do we even know ourselves? We're our biggest project. We're busy trying to have extraneous relationships, intimate relationships, business relationships, etc. And really, at the end of the day, it's like the creed. Know thyself. What is it? Know thyself. I don't know if it's a creed, but know thyself, right?
It's know
Know
thyself
thyself.
to me, yeah.
Know thyself, right? And to be constantly curiously engaged about who you are, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and have some fun with it, and have some grace and patience for yourself. I mean, Lord knows, when I was in my 20s, I was a classic entrepreneur, classic workaholic. If you saw me, you'd be like, how is this chick even doing it? And I just did it. And I think we all kind of learn that when we have an entrepreneurial spirit, until we burn out. But it's wisdom. It's learn along the way, and just have some grace for yourself, because we don't have a manual. Nobody has a human being manual. We have some guideposts, but we don't really have a manual, and we're all individuals. So, good for you that you've done the work of which you've done up until this point in the time that you've been on this planet, and that you're applying it, because at the end of the day, I think people have a lot of grace in general. Even if they don't like the outcome, they do have grace. People appreciate an apology. And then, we're able to just move forward, because you know what?
Yeah.
They're going to do it. Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect, right? So to do that, and to just save face and business and in life, and then just in relationships, because that's what we're doing everywhere. in all equities.
Yeah.
All interactions are a relationship, even if it's for 5 minutes, 30 seconds while you're getting your coffee, 45 days in a real estate transaction, or the person you're going to decide to marry, you know, potentially for the rest of your life, right? It's all a
Right.
relationship, and it all starts in communication. So good for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is Ask an Agent Anything. And the reason we call it that is because it does not matter what topic we start on. We literally get into everything and
Yeah.
anything because it is a part of being an entrepreneur. It is a part about owning your own real estate business, no matter how you run it or whatever direction you come from it with. And so, just to recap today, as things are changing, as new things are coming out, however it's affecting your business, just remember to come from that mindset of change is an opportunity and it's only time to get louder and louder about how you add value. Anything else you would add, Renee?
I would say just keep going. If this is the business that is calling to you, then stay the course. You know, you don't necessarily have to double down. That's sort of a masculine approach, like, oh, just work harder. Work smarter. You know, you may have to work a little bit harder. It's a season for it. It is definitely a shifting season to possibly double down on certain things, but get clear on what you're doubling down on, and be inspired and be in inspired action while you're doubling down on it. And if you run into a roadblock, if you know, get into that reactionary space, I mean, heck, you know, reach out to Corianne or myself. We'll give you, you know, some time of the day. Otherwise, you know, reach out to your local community, friends, family, let them know what's happening. And people are there to support you. People want to see other people win. So just know that. Stay the course, and real estate's a great business to be in, guys. Don't let this scare you.
And that's what we're here for. So put it on your calendar every Tuesday at 2 Mountain Standard Time. We would love to see you here, bringing your questions, your thoughts, and engaging with us because that's what we're here for. Thank you, everybody who tuned in to Ask an Agent Everything number 10. We'll see you next week on Tuesday.
Hi,
Bye,
guys. Be
everybody.
well. Thanks for listening.